It's midnight and we're lying in a ditch. It's almost pitch black. The men move silently into position. They're watching a known IED factory where insurgents work inside to create the deadliest of roadside bombs. And then, from his shoulder, a soldier launches an anti-structures munition and the building is hit. They move fast, killing the insurgents inside. It's so dark here, even our night vision lens struggles to pick up all the action. The strike-up was fast and effective. 5 IED makers are dead in the buildings behind us, but the enemy are still engaging the soldiers, and there's a helicopter circling overhead. This might be Brecon, but it's about as realistic as it gets. A few minutes later and they take 2 casualties. 1 soldier is killed, another is hit in the arm. This is the first time they've used the high-tech laser TES vests, which feeds back immediately if they've been hit by the enemy. The helicopter, which has been providing infrared light assistance to the troops on the ground, is called now to assist in a casualty evacuation. This exercise is not supposed to replicate Afghanistan. It also takes lessons from Iraq, Northern Ireland and Kosovo, but they're all brought to bear here.
As per the rules of engagement, we probably wouldn't be able to destroy the building straight away, we law. However, it's just about the rules of engagement. We do similar operations like this out in Afghanistan. However, the kinetic level will be tempered to what the enemy are doing as well.
And there was 5 insurgents in the building, is that right?
Yeah, 5 insurgents. 5 insurgents dead. Obviously, the IED capability has now been removed from this location, so I think it's a very successful lot we choose as aim.
Earlier in the day, the operation had been planned to every minute detail. Using a scale model of the area, the soldiers are briefed as though this is for real.
Clarify now, the IED makers come under our rules of engagement. Okay, they can be engaged as enemy combatants because they're engaged in making IEDs.
All of these men have recent operational experience, having returned from Op Herrick within the past 3 years. Now they're training for the next level. The planning is as important as the execution, but before the briefing is over, the camp suffers a mortar attack and a casualty. In the ops room, 1 student has been elevated to the status of Company Sergeant Major. It's important the FOB runs smoothly in all areas, and he's learning all about the pressures that brings.
It can be stressful work. The days can be really long, the nights can be even longer. The bigger drum we have is they're always changing and we've got to change with them. There's always something to do.
It still remains one of the most arduous courses the British Army has to offer. It's arduous by design and it's arduous by the very nature of the terrain around here. You've seen the hills that the soldiers have to take themselves up and down, and the kit they have to carry is not light. But it's not a beasting for a beasting's sake.
Home for this 2-week phase of the exercise is a deserted farm. The soldiers had to fortify it on their first day, building trenches and filling sandbags. The terrain here is very different from that which the men will face when they return to Helmand. But it's not all close combat. They must conduct patrols to keep the enemy at bay and engage regularly with the local population, played by Gurkhas.
Tell him we've come here to help him and just to see what the local population, if they're any good or if they need any help.
Playing a feared warlord, this Gurkha demands help clearing up the water supply. In exchange, he offers intelligence which will help with the strike-up being planned for later tonight.
Basically, he was telling us that in the local community at the minute, they're struggling because of the dirty water, and also possibly there's an IED factory just up on the high ground to my left, and timings and strength of people that are there, so possibly in the future we can do future saskins.
All of the infantry regiments are represented here, including Special Forces, but not all of these students are infantry soldiers. The course also takes those who work alongside them in theatre, usually in vehicles as the brigade reconnaissance force.
While we've been out in Afghanistan then, we have been operating more and more on our feet, because as we know, the vehicle movement is quite restricted, especially into the green zone. So to be able to do something like this gives you a lot more experience on the way and the understanding of how the infantry work.
This course has already lost 7 men due to its tough nature, but the Army needs to know the men it sends to lead others into battle can deal with the pressures.
It's different sorts of challenges. And one of the key things we're getting people to cope with here is those basic skills, being able to administer themselves in the field when it's pouring with rain, when they're cold, when their hands aren't working properly because they're so soaked through. If they can do that in these sort of conditions, they can easily transpose that to Afghanistan.
As these students return to their base after a successful operation, they're left wondering what the next day will bring in this contemporary world of warfare training. Kyle Lark, Forces News in Sennybridge in Wales.